much for that. And so I would say, without further ado, Reza, please roll the video. And after that, as we said, there will be a live Q&A session. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the online lectures for meaningful tourism as a sustainable development tool for tourism in Africa. My name is Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Alt. I'm the founder and executive director of the Meaningful Tourism Center, based in London and in Kathmandu, Nepal. Let me start by giving a brief introduction on what we have planned to do in this online lecture series for you. Let me start the presentation, just a second. What will we do in this online lecture series for African countries will be the following. So in the first week of December, we have 5 lectures about 5 African countries, starting with South Africa, and then Kenya, Tanzania, Cameroon, and Zimbabwe. Actually, the next year, there will be more African countries also following up. And then on December 9, 16, and 23, we will have once a week another lecture where we will look for the African continent, more specifically on what is the meaningful tourism approach, what are the tools, what are the key performance indicators, and in the next week we will talk about how to apply this practically in tourism, what are specifics about soft markets, and also we will have a special topic, carbon credits trading for Africa, which in the first lecture today we will have only briefly. And finally, we will look in the last lecture at the step-by-step implementation of ecotourism for African destinations, companies, and organizations. And of course, we will have a conclusion and outlook. So in the first lecture today, I have the pleasure and the honor to start in a minute with an introduction about what is meaningful tourism. And then we have our certified trainer from the Meaningful Tourism Center for each of the countries, talking about how can meaningful tourism help to develop sustainable tourism in my country. So that will be South Africa, Kenya, and so on. And then we have a local expert joining us, talking about the current situation and activities for sustainable tourism and for capacity building already existing in this country, and some special aspects depending on the expertise of the local expert. And then we have Mr. Vinod Vasudevan from AOI Company, and he will give a good example of how you earn money from sustainable behavior by using carbon credit trading. I also find this an important topic. And at the end, very important also, we have a live question and answer session. So if you have any questions coming up to your mind in the next 45 minutes or so, please bear them in mind, or you can also use the chat function, of course. And at the end, there will be a Q&A where we will try to answer your questions as they are arising. Thank you already very much for participating in that part. And also, just to mention that everybody who has registered to participate in this online lecture series is invited for free. So this is sponsored by us, the Meaningful Tourism Center, and by the Tourism Institute. And so there's no payment necessary. However, if you want to have a participation certificate signed by the leaders of the Meaningful Tourism Center and Tourism Institute, this is available, but for that we will have to ask you a payment of $30 that will be done after the lecture series. And also, we have a special bonus for you. Everybody participating in the Meaningful Tourism Online Lectures Africa will receive automatic getting free access to the Meaningful Tourism Weekly, our publication every week telling you about meaningful tourism development. If for some reason you don't want to receive this anymore every week, you can tell us and it will be canceled. Very briefly talking about who's talking to you. So my name is Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Alt, and I've been working in tourism since many years, since the 1980s. And as you can see in this list, I have been working a lot with the Chinese market, but also I've been working for more than 15 years now in different African countries, talking about sustainable growth development and about different source markets. And so for us here, very important is that in 2021, during the pandemic, I started the Meaningful Tourism Center to support the concept of meaningful tourism development. That is what we will talk about in our lectures here. And also, at the moment, if you want to know, I am based in Kathmandu, in Nepal. So I moved here last year, and Meaningful Tourism Center came obviously with me. Other than that, well, you can see that I've been working a lot internationally and having a lot of hats, including a fellowship of the Royal Geographic Society and the Royal Asiatic Society, and also membership in a couple of international tourism organizations. So that is what I wanted to tell you for the moment. And now let's enjoy the online lectures, and let's not forget Europe is the past, Asia is the present, Africa is the future. Thank you, and let's start the presentations. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Meaningful Tourism as a tool for development, sustainable tourism for Africa. And let me start by talking about what is meaningful tourism. So meaningful tourism is a paradigm which defines basically the 6 main stakeholders in tourism and hospitality, and saying that all 6 need to receive objective benefits and subjective satisfaction. So jobs, income, regional development, but also happiness about encounters with visitors. And so that this is necessary to support the sustainable development of destinations, companies, and organizations, to mitigate and adapt to climate change, and to provide good travel experiences to the travelers as one of the 6 stakeholders, but not only for them. So let's have a look where we are now. So international tourism obviously is at a crossroad. So we see that climate change is destroying many business models which were successful in the past. We see AI is changing tourism in more ways than even the internet did in the past. And also we see that customers' demand is changing from sightseeing and recreation to transformative experiences and special interest. So what are the results? The results are that we see that more and more people are asking for quality and not just quantity. Mass market package tours are out and individual travel is in. Tour operators are starting to be replaced by AI-powered personal assistant apps. So the traditional distribution channels are disappearing, which means there are many chances for African destinations and companies to avoid the mistakes which have been done by others before and adopt to the current and future development right away. And obviously, the result is that there's a need for a holistic approach to tourism, tackling not just one problem, but looking at the whole picture. So we can see we had 50 years after the pandemic of growth in tourism. So based in many ways also on the development of affordable air transport. and making it affordable for more people, even the middle classes, to fly long distance. And that was based on the idea that tourism is about recreation, resting, and sightseeing, and was mostly organized in package tours. And for Africa, that was after independence one of the easiest and ways to start earning some hard currency by making use of the nature in the form of safaris or beaches to attract international visitors. So we had a year of growth, and if you look at this graph, which you probably have been seen before, so Africa, the blue one on top, came out of almost nothing in the 1980s to having a share, even so still a small one, but a growing one. And totally, we see that we reached almost 1.5 billion trips before the pandemic. And at one result, you can see right hand side, it's a picture of Barcelona. So the main pedestrian area was completely taken over by tourism. So where did this end? Well, it ended with the pandemic, but before already we saw that there were big debates about over-tourism, local people getting fed up with tourism development, and also ecological discussions that you have to be ashamed to use an aircraft because you are contributing to global warming, you're contributing to pollution. And so we saw during the pandemic a lot of discussions and debates going on, and everybody was agreeing that using just arrival numbers, just how many people are coming as a key performance indicator is not working, that you have to have a more differentiated approach. And also we saw that as one of the results of the pandemic, the demands are changing. So people are less interested in recreation and shopping and sightseeing. They want more involvement and experience, and they want actually transformation instead of just memory creation. So they want to get something out of the trip, which will make them a fuller personality, having a better and more complex idea of what is the world and what who are they themselves. So this is called the transformation economy. You may remember there was a very famous book of Pine and Gilmore about the experience economy, and this has now been updated by the author Pine, talking now about the transformation economy. This is where we are moving to. So why do we need meaningful tourism? So the climate breakdown will dominate the development in the coming decades. So there's no doubt about this. And so many once successful business models will be destroyed. We see all the new technology coming, which provide a lot of new opportunities, but also many challenges. And as we just said, so the demand is developing from relaxation, sightseeing, and experiences to customized transformational experiences. And of course, Africa is very well posed to provide this kind of experiences, especially for non-African visitors. So in a nutshell, meaningful tourism is not a nice to have idea, but it's a set of practical tools which are necessary for the survival and the future development of destinations, organizations, and companies in this changing surroundings. So, and the key point is that, so this is a holistic approach. So it's based on the idea that all stakeholders need to have benefits and satisfaction. And so who are the 6 main stakeholders? Obviously the travelers, the host communities, the tourism employees, often forgotten in discussions about sustainable or responsible or recreational tourism. Then also the service providing companies, they have to earn money for future investment, the governments on different levels, and the local and global environment. So this holistic approach looking at all the stakeholders' interest is made into a practical tool by using KPIs. So what you cannot measure, you cannot manage, as I would say. So these are smart KPIs, which means that they are not talking about what will happen in 50 years or so, but something which you can measure and annually or even more often and see, are you developing in the right direction. And also meaning control is not just looking at the time when people are traveling. So we have something called meaningful travel, which is concentrating on the experiences of the travelers, because actually tourism is a whole production chain. So from financing, from hotel construction to waste management. So in all these steps, we need to have a clear point of what are the interests of all stakeholders. So it is a step inside sustainable tourism development, and is based on principles of positive technology and on the Schumpeter approach of creative destruction. Actually, this idea just won a Nobel Prize in economy. So some modern ideas using Schumpeter as a base so that you actively embrace change and not just reluctantly follow it. So meaningful tourism offers a tool to analyze the situation, to mitigate contradictions and align interests, develop a strategy, and then to monitor the progress with smart KPIs. You can also compare this with other destinations, other companies. We are producing a meaningful tourism index for that. And of course, it can be and should be integrated into capacity building and education, both academic and vocational. And it can also help the discourse and discussion about, is tourism beneficial for our country, for our destination, for our society. So this is a rather new idea that has been developed by me since 5 years. And in 2021, we established the Meaningful Tourism Center. And 2022, we started the Meaningful Tourism Award, which, by the way, is also happening again this year. So please nominate everybody who you think, or every organization and company you think should get a Meaningful Tourism Award until the end of December. Some books and articles have been published about the idea, and in April this year, PATA, the Pacific Asia Tourism Association, approved this concept as their official mission statement. And so we have been this year organizing a lot of conferences and forums and fairs, all connected to the tourism. The key element of our work is that we have about 50 trainers in different countries, and you can see there are also many African countries, and each of our online lectures is based on the work of one of our local trainers in Africa. So they are there on the ground and with the local knowledge to help to have this kind of development. And as I said, PATA has said for the Asia Pacific region, this is the official vision to develop a meaningful Pacific Asia tourism economy. Hopefully, we can reach the same for Africa as well. So meaningful tourism means not looking for compromises, and I think this is a big mistake in a lot of discussions, but you need to align interests. Compromises are, nobody is ever satisfied, and also a balancing act, and balances, can crash easily. So what we need is to align interest of the stakeholders. And this you can use, or you can achieve by active embracement of change. So we mentioned Schumpeter before. And of course, Africa can have the advantage that you have less rigid structures compared to other destinations. So it might be easier to embrace new ideas. Because Africa is, of course, also the youngest of all continents, so you have so many bright young people who are willing to do something and do something innovative and something new. This is a good opportunity. I've been working a lot with China, and I could see how this has helped. And the decades ago, the development in China was still a young society. And also it means, of course, the integration of the interests of the local host population. So we saw all this overturned protest that they feel that they are suffering, that their nature and culture is destroyed for short-term profit. There have been in Africa a lot of debates also recently about such activities stopping the movement of animals and many other problems. And of course, meaningful tourism also means the provision of better training and better working conditions for the employees in tourism and hospitality. So because we need to attract motivated, high quality staff offering good service, that is the key point. And this is something where we see that after the pandemic in many countries, there's a lack of staff now because the working conditions in tourism have not been ideal in many places in the past. So we need obviously restrictions and control of the ecological impact of increased tourism, but also we need not just regulations, we need to educate the locals and the visitors about the local ecosystems and how to protect them. If the visitors feel not just as somebody bringing some dollars, but somebody who is welcomed, then they have also more interest in protecting the area where they are visiting. So we can align the interests of economic development and environmental protection, and they are actually not opposites, because in the long term, we are using natural and cultural resources to generate jobs and income, and so to keep them alive, not killing what we are selling, is in the interest of both economic development and profit and environmental protection. So that means we can use a strategy based on the meaningful tourism principles of providing benefits and satisfaction to all stakeholders to avoid a development in Africa of short-term profit and long-term destruction, as we have seen, unfortunately, in many other places in the world happening. So this is an overview of what is meaningful tourism, and we will talk more about what does it mean specifically for different destinations in the rest of the lectures. Just briefly saying, so who is the Meaningful Tourism Center? Well, it's a non-profit organization based in London with headquarters in Kathmandu, and I'm proud to say partners and trainers around the world, including many countries in Africa. So we provide research, training, consulting services for companies, organizations, and institutions globally, and of course also in Africa. And myself, I'm having called now one more Prof. M for Meaningful, and I've been working in tourism for almost 15 years as a consultant, a trainer, a publisher, event organizer, and also as a university professor. And so we offer together with our local trainers a full range of services for destinations, companies, and organizations. So the entry level is that based on a self-assessment for individual companies, which is very easy to do based on smart KPIs we provide, so that these companies or organizations or destinations can become recognized as part of their meaningful tourism movement. We have as a key element meaningful tourism transformative game workshops and source market workshops, which are full day offline workshops. So this is where the local trainers are providing the services on the spot and if necessary also in local language. And this is based on role play, so it's a very innovative and productive way of seeing how can specifically for a specific company or destination developments pushed forward. And there's, of course, implementation support. So from just developing customized KPIs to just the workshops to a full implementation support package, all customized specifically for the situation in Africa, all offered for you. So please feel free to contact the local trainers or us at the Mutual Building Center, and we will be very happy to make this also something which is happening in your place and for your company. So as we said at the beginning, Europe is the past, Asia is the present, Africa is the future, and let me add, meaningful tourism is a tool for sustainable and profitable success. With that, thank you very much for your attention, and we will move forward in our online lecture. If you have any interest in contacting us, so please feel free to contact us, either our local trainers or the center on WhatsApp or email. We have just updated our website, and we have the link to the weekly newsletter you will all receive because you have participated in this online workshop. Thank you so much, and now let's move forward in the program.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ropa Fadzaishi Mshawara, and today I'm excited to talk about meaningful tourism, a game-changing approach for Zimbabwe's tourism future. Let's dive in, let's get into the conversation. What is meaningful tourism? What is it all about? Meaningful tourism is a paradigm that ensures sustainable development by delivering measurable benefits and real satisfaction to all key stakeholders in the tourism and hospitality industry. And when I'm talking about the key tourism stakeholders, I'm talking of the travelers, I'm talking of the host communities, the employees in tourism, the government, service providers. Picture this. Success isn't just numbers on a page, but the tangible wins for everybody involved. The 6 core stakeholders, therefore, that I've mentioned above are enabled to benefit from tourism. This framework turns out into a force for good for everyone, balancing profits with purpose. So, why meaningful tourism and why does it matter for Zimbabwe? Globally, tourism is evolving towards impact, authenticity, clear value. Think, for an instance, we need regenerative travel over mass tourism. And therefore, Zimbabwe, it stands at a pivotal moment, needing a strategy that pulls all the 6 stakeholders that I've mentioned previously, the visitors, communities, employee, companies, government, as well as nature. Meaningful tourism, therefore, supercharges our competitiveness as a country. It builds climate resilience, and fosters a true community inclusion. The goal for Zimbabwe for 2030 is to achieve a 5 billion tourism economy. With meaningful tourism, we'll be able to have KPI, key performance indicators that will enable us to track our visitor satisfaction, track community earnings, and our conservation quality. Plus, it crafts a powerful destination identity celebrating our heritage, vibrant culture, sustainability credential, positioning Zimbabwe as Africa's leader in transformative responsible tourism. Why should we settle for ordinary when we can lead the way as Zimbabwe's tourism? We can see that Zimbabwe boosts sustainable tourism landscape. So where are we right now? We host the world-class heritage assets, for instance, the Great Zimbabwe Monuments, Matopo Hills, Kami Ruins, but most of all, the majestic Victoria Falls, where we see the world traveling down to Zimbabwe in Africa to see these crown jewels. We are already advancing with community-based models, for example, like campfire, blending conservation with local empowerment. But yet, we have a lot of challenges that persist. We have challenges with our fragmented DMMOs, We have limited community benefits. We have issues to do with brain drain because of the economy. We are suffering from skill shortage right now in Zimbabwe, in our hotels, in most of our operators in the tourism industry. We have even a weak digital presence. For most organizations, visitor experience suffer from inconsistent service standards, and we've been talking about this in other platforms. We also suffer from infrastructure gaps, where people are traveling and then they come here, they find substandard infrastructure. While small to medium enterprises as well, they grapple with their digital marketing, their product packaging, and climate adaptive operations. Therefore, with this opportunity of meaningful tourism, it offers aligned, trackable improvements in sustainability and market edge, turning all these gaps that I've mentioned previously into growth engines for tourism here in Zimbabwe. Let's take a case study for the Great Zimbabwe. We call it the ancient city, and we are seeing some of the issues that they are facing for limited community income, despite the cultural ownership and knowledge. We need to improve interpretation of the monuments and packaging of the message and the histories of the Shona people. Meaningful tourism therefore be enables and encourages community-led experiences, the craft makers, the cultural tours, the youth and women participation. The World Heritage Site is brimming with all these storytelling potentials from its ancient stone walls, but currently tourism here is mostly site only, missing the deeper cultural immersions. We can use smart KPIs to measure success for these sites. We can track the satisfaction of our guests. As I mentioned before, we can also have community earnings, conservation health, and diverse experience offerings. This case shows how heritage becomes a living and an inclusive asset, not only for the tourists themselves, but for all the people, the host communities that are there. The local communities hold rich knowledge of and ownership, but they have been seeing minimum income over the years. Think unrealized potential in the people that I've mentioned previously, the craftspeople, the storytellers, the traditional people, the traditional healers. So therefore, meaningful tourism flips this by promoting community-led experiences, cultural tours, crafts markets, and active roles, like I mentioned before, for the youth and the women. Capacity building and stakeholder alignment is what is needed. To thrive, Zimbabwe's tourism demands modern skills, digital marketing, climate literacy, compelling storytelling, and service excellency. Communities now need business training, product development, and eco practices. Employees also, in general, require clear career paths to elevate their standards. Most of the companies in Zimbabwe must embrace sustainable operations, collaborative supply chains, and this is initiated with the understanding of meaningful tourism. Enter the meaningful tourism training workshops and be able to have the dynamic sessions with role playing and stakeholder dialogues. These will be able to help you to deliver measurable KPIs and unified actions. This is exactly what we need for Zimbabwe. And to sum this up, we are looking at the vision for Zimbabwe. What would we want for Zimbabwe as a meaningful tourism destination? At the end, we want Zimbabwe to become a regional model for meaningful, inclusive, and sustainable tourism. Imagine the wins. Visitors enjoy authentic, curated, cultural immersive journeys. The communities, on the other hand, secure income, skills, ownership, and pride in their heritage of Zimbabwe. Employees access trainings, career growth, pro standards. The companies expand through their sustainable innovations, local partnership, and resilient operations. And the most importantly, government, they gain robust governance, transparency, accountability. We have climate smart planning and proven impacts. The environment at large, which is the mother of all, benefits from low impact practices and conservation synergies and resilience. So Zimbabwe, at the end, emerges as a regional model for meaningful, inclusive, sustainable tourism in a destination where every trip creates a lasting value. So, in closing, ladies and gentlemen, meaningful tourism is not just a concept, it's our blueprint for a thriving, equitable tourism sector that honors our past while securing our future. Let's commit to this vision together, and we can do this as a country. Thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, I'm ready to join. to answer and get to them all. And we are confident that with meaningful tourism, Zimbabwe will be a regional model. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Professor Kasese, a tourism expert and chairman of the Great Zimbabwe Destination Management and Marketing Organization. Today, from our frontline perspective, managing this UNESCO World Heritage Site, I will explain how meaningful tourism empowers DMMOs like ours to drive sustainable growth, unite stakeholders, and unlock economic potential for Great Zimbabwe, Masvingo Province, and beyond. Role of DMMOs in tourism. DMMOs are the heartbeat of destination success, coordinating strategic planning, marketing, product development, stakeholder engagement, visitor services, and sustainability. At Great Zimbabwe DMMO, established with UNESCO support, we bridge public-private partnerships to enhance conservation, boost visitor experiences, and foster community empowerment. Meaningful tourism supercharges this mandate by ensuring measurable benefits for all 6 stakeholders, that is, travelers, communities, employees, providers, government, and the environment. It transforms fragmented efforts into unified, impactful action. Let's look at the enhanced strategic planning and marketing. For DMMOs, meaningful tourism means sharper tools for planning and promotion. We develop cohesive branding like our unified visual identity, dedicated websites with virtual tours, and engaging content on history and culture, speaking with one voice aligned to Zimbabwe's National Tourism Master Plan. This attracts more visitors, extends stays, and increases revenues through targeted digital campaigns and media strategies. Our DMMO now tracks smart KPIs, key performance indicators, for visitor satisfaction and economic impact, positioning Great Zimbabwe as a premier global destination rather than a site-only stop. Let's look at product development and visitor services.
You can pause.
Let us look at product development and visitor services. Meaningful tourism revolutionizes product development at the DMMO level. We shift from basic site visits to immersive community-led experiences, cultural tours, craft markets, storytelling sessions, and youth women programs that leverage local knowledge. Improved infrastructure like upgraded interpretation systems and facilities elevates visitor service, ensuring authentic, high-quality journeys. This diversification boosts repeat visits and positive reviews, directly growing our destination's competitiveness and revenue streams. Let's look at stakeholder engagement and community benefits. DMMOs thrive on collaboration, and meaningful tourism provides the framework. Through our steering committees, stakeholder workshops, and engagement plans, we unite local businesses and authorities, securing buy-in for constituencies, business plans, and operations. Communities gain income, skills, and pride via Campfire. While we measure their earnings as KPIs, this fosters social cohesion, reduces poverty, and creates jobs, making Great Zimbabwe a model of inclusive growth. Let's look at sustainability and economic impact for DMMOs. Sustainability is core to DMMOs, and meaningful tourism embeds it deeply. We promote low-impact operations, conservation alignment, and climate resilience, protecting our ancient ruins and ecosystems for generations. Economically, this attracts investment, stimulates local spending, and contributes to national goals like the $10 billion tourism economy. For our DMMOs, it means sustainable funding, stronger governance, and long-term viability through public-private synergies. Let's look at capacity building and challenges. We tackle DMMO pain points head-on, skill gaps in digital marketing, and service excellence via targeted workshops with role-playing. Fragmented efforts become aligned actions, filling infrastructure voids and enhancing visibility. As chairman, I've seen our board and working groups deliver measurable wins, from legal entity formation to media campaigns that spotlight Great Zimbabwe worldwide. Vision and call to action. Looking ahead, Meaningful Tourism firmly positions the Great Zimbabwe DMMO and DMMOs globally as regional leaders, driving heritage preservation, economic vitality, and community thriving. Our vision is to elevate Great Zimbabwe from a single site to a fully integrated, responsible destination that sets the standards for African heritage tourism. Join our movement, invest and engage. Help us to co-create. To realize this 10 billion tourism economic potential and ensure genuine sustainability impact, we issue a clear call to action to our 6 vital stakeholders. To our partners in government and investments, we invite you to invest directly in our validated infrastructure plans and the DMMO's legal entity, ensuring the long-term governance and financial viability of the destination. Help us to fill this critical infrastructure void and align national policies with local needs. To our community leaders and employees, we ask you to actively engage in the Community Tourism Steering Committee and guard and interpret forum. Your traditional knowledge and skills and frontline experiences are the heart of an authentic visitor journey we are building. To our providers and businesses, join our tourism product working group to create high-quality, immersive packages that extend visitor stays and increase local expenditure. We need you. Partnership to enforce our new Responsible Tourism Code of Conduct. Our commitment is simple. Through meaningful tourism, we will ensure every dollar spent at Great Zimbabwe translates into a measurable benefit for the environment, for the traveler, and most importantly, for the communities who are the true custodians of this incredible heritage. Together, we turn the ancient stones of Great Zimbabwe into a model for modern prosperity and inclusive growth. I thank you.
In a world where every sector must do its part, the hospitality industry stands at a unique crossroads, hosting millions while shaping a sustainable future. Step 1. Smart billing and digital records. Automated systems now track energy and water usage, carbon footprint per guest, and even the impact of room service. This transparency helps hotels benchmark, reduce, and communicate emissions. Water is precious. Through sensor-based taps, water recycling units, and rainwater harvesting, hotels cut consumption while ensuring luxury remains untouched. Energy efficiency is no longer optional. With solar power, smart thermostats, LED lighting, and HVAC optimization, IoT sensors for lighting and heating or cooling control, energy use is reduced by up to 40%, directly lowering emissions. Did you know hotels waste up to 150 kilograms of food daily? Through AI-based kitchen audits and composting, food waste becomes biocompost for gardens, or even biochar for carbon sequestration. Garden waste, too, is reimagined. Instead of being trashed, it's turned into fertilizer or clean-burning biomass. Guests play a key role. Simple choices, reusing linens, choosing local meals, or opting for green room services, staff uniforms, can cut their carbon footprint by up to 30%. The use of recycled material from bamboo waste into linen needs to be highlighted here, allowing for community-based entrepreneurs to develop and flourish. Transformation starts within. Trained staff drive the sustainability vision, reducing waste, spotting inefficiencies, and delivering a greener guest experience. Each action contributes to the UN Sustainable Development Goals: clean water, SDG 6, affordable and clean energy, SDG 7, responsible consumption, SDG 12, climate action, SDG 13. Guests can use our Carbon Calculator app to calculate their carbon footprint via air or road and during the stay, and contribute to a community development project that helps women empowerment, poverty alleviation, and making our planet a safer, greener place. The path to zero emissions isn't about compromise. It's about innovation, awareness, and commitment for the planet, for people, and for the future of hospitality. Businesses want to go green, but most don't know where to start. And the ones who try? They get lost in complex ESG frameworks and greenwashing risks. At AIROI, we turn climate goals into measurable impact, using AI to track emissions, generate real carbon biochar and plastic credits, and support nature-based solutions. From Peru to Nigeria, we help land stewards and recyclers monetize impact, turning sustainability into a business advantage. AIROI, where AI meets ESG. Let's build a regenerative future together.
Okay, everybody, we are back live now. So, and opening the Q&A session. So I think we have got two very impressive presentations by Ropa and by Professor Fasisi, making clear how Zimbabwe can develop using the ecotourism approach. And so, of course, I'm interested to hear any questions, any comments. So please go ahead. And I see, okay, there's already Marina Novelli. I'm very happy that you found the time to join us. Of course, we know Marina is one of the major experts and has been for many years helping Africa to develop sustainable tourism. So, Marina, thank you so much for being with us today, and please go ahead.
Well, I promised I would be on one of your sessions, so I always keep to my promises. Thank you very much for the presentation. Interestingly, I've just come back from Zimbabwe, so I picked this particular presentation out of the lot because Zimbabwe is very close to me for two reasons. One professional reason and one personal reason, because my partner is from Bulawayo, so I keep going back there. Well, I've got a question, right, which hopefully will help you guys trying to think through the process. The question is to do with the solution-based approach, which is very clear to me. What you're trying to do is to identify potential solution that can address the challenges that the tourism industry is having at continental level. But and we've seen the videos at the end, and obviously Professor, the chairman of the Greater Zimbabwe project, and again, while on one side I struggle, as I expressed to you, Wolfgang, the challenges of understanding what is it that is different from what we have called for many years sustainable value chain development, which involves all the stakeholders and stuff. On the other hand, my question is, have you done a good assessment of good practices which are actually happening at destination level? Now, your presenter mentioned in one of the examples, they had the campfire project in Zimbabwe, which unfortunately, although is an example of is one of the first community-based tourism project that any lecturers would use in good practice examples for the past. I think I used campfire about 20 years ago, the first time I ever mentioned it. Today is an example of a failed potential project because of the withdrawal of funding, international funding. So highlighting the challenges of operating when one operation depends from foreign investment. So my question is, has there been an exercise at destination level that highlights good practices that then can be replicated at local level. Because in Zimbabwe in particular, you've got many micro realities, right? And I'm sure it's the same in other destinations, which have worked, have been developed locally, and they've actually been rolled out locally by local thinkers, right? Because some of the solution that, for instance, the video with all the AI technology, great, all fantastic. But we need to be careful that we don't get into the challenge and the problem of having top-down approach of models that work elsewhere, but they cannot work in the African context. And I'm saying that based on evidence. I'm not dismissing the ability of implementing. I'm dismissing the value and adaptability of certain models that might work elsewhere, when in actual fact, there are examples that work locally. And I can give you an example. Zimbabwe is the first country in Africa and probably in the world that implemented a no plastic approach at destination like Victoria Falls. You arrive in Victoria Falls, you are given a fill-in bottles, which is actually refilled from Victoria Falls National Park to your hotel and many other destinations across the board. And that is a Zimbabwe-led initiative, right? So can we try and use, these are meaningful. If you want to use the word meaningful tourism to me is about using local knowledge to actually make it happen. So my question is, have you actually done a thorough assessment of all the good practices that exist at destination level to make sure that your meaningful concept is locally defined and locally developed?
Ropa, obviously this is a question for you.
Thank you, Marina, and thank you, Murora. I'm sure she knows what that means. Makoti for Zimbabwe, and I'm happy that you managed to join this session. It's a pleasure to have you, and I'm happy with the questions, because at the end of the day, what we want is to have the meaningful tourism destination. What I'm glad to be able to answer in this day, and why we use the case study for Great Zimbabwe, is because of the project that we are currently working on. And yes, with the donor funding of the French agency with UNESCO managing the project for the Great Zimbabwe DMMO. And as you've rightfully said, you've used the example of Victoria Falls, of what they are doing. We sat down from the past 2 years, and we saw the shortcomings that have been happening, especially for the Great Zimbabwe DMMO, that things for the Great Zimbabwe as a destination itself. And with the partnership with UNESCO and the funding from the French Development Agency, the Great Zimbabwe DMMO was birthed. But it wasn't birthed from nothing. It was birthed with the replica and the benchmark of We Are Africa, We Are Victoria Falls, from the Victoria Falls. So we are trying to copy and benchmarking what the Victoria Falls is doing, sitting down and doing the heritage impact assessment, seeing the shortcomings on visitor sites at the Great Zimbabwe monuments, what has been lacking. We don't have documentation. We don't have digitalization at the monuments. We don't have very good statistics. What is Victoria Falls doing? And what can we do? And definitely we can never do this alone. And with the partnership from UNESCO and the French Development Agency, these are the steps that we are taking as the Great Zimbabwe DMMO. And then comes in Professor Wolf with the meaningful tourism. We have embraced it so that in the success of the Great Zimbabwe DMMO, we need to be guided to see what KPIs we have. We need knowledge. We need the board members to learn. We need the community to learn. We need all the stakeholders that are involved in the Great Zimbabwe destination to be able to learn. And I'm sure to everybody who's here, who's joining from Zimbabwe and the whole continent of Africa, of the country of Zimbabwe, they would understand that Great Zimbabwe is not where it's supposed to be in terms of visitor destination, in terms of most practices. So the Victoria Falls is an example of what has passed. We are copying from what they are doing, and we hope with them as a benchmark and with meaningful tourism as our mentors, we'll be able to achieve the meaningful tourism practices in the destination.
But
Thank
can
you,
I ask you a
Marina.
question, Ropa?
Yes,
Why
ma'am.
are you, I mean, okay, it's fine, it's meaningful tourism, but Zimbabwe has been a leading country for the past 25 years, right? On community-based tourism, right? On
Yes.
other models which have failed, not because the concept was actually wrong, but because there is inconsistencies and you teach me, you know what are the failing aspect. I'll give you an
Yes.
example, right? I went to Bulawayo art art museum, right? Last 2 weeks ago. I always go there because there are local artists that is the only place you can get decent arts in the Bulawayo
Exactly.
area, right?
Yes.
You know how much is the ticket to get in for an international visitors? $15.
Exactly.
fifteen
That's
dollars for an empty space, right? To go then
mhm.
and walk through an empty space and go and see some local artists. Now, why am I using this example? Because the failure of those programs is nothing to do with how you call it. You can call it however you want. The problem here is how do we make sure that if we are putting together the stakeholders, there is a coordinated approach where we don't try to reinvent the term we use, right? We actually address the challenges that we have. Now, I'm not there to criticize anybody, right? What I'm saying, you can hopefully, Ropa, you've known my work, you know what I do. I don't know if you do,
Yes.
and if you don't, I think we've been even
Yeah.
in touch in the past. Um,
Exactly. Yes.
at some point, please, one of the things that I'm calling upon is you want to use the meaningful tourism approach, great, but please make sure you also take ownership, right, and take leadership over the type of intervention that they are taken, because what I'm concerned about is that what the risk that there is here is to replicate potentially some of the failing aspect that we, and I put myself in the picture, because in 25 years, not all the stuff I've been involved in have been successful, because we have been kind of trying and testing and trying to understand how to do things. So my call for action is, however you want to call it, please make sure that then you avail yourself of the people, local people, diaspora people. You've got a huge amount of Zimbabwean around the world who work in the sector, particularly in other countries like South Africa, for instance. Look at your neighboring country. How many
Yes.
Zimbabwean are doing great work, including particularly in the entrepreneurial space, right? Who can potentially support this journey? Because sometimes to have KPIs which are designed on, I would say, measures of success, which are very different from what could or could not work in your environment, can be a very risky business. Replication is great, replicating some of the stories of Vic Fall is great, but as you know, you teach me Vic Fall example is not perfect by any means. There are challenges. I've worked in Vic Falls for over 15 years, and we are still working with people like Charlene, that and Cheryl from the Green Tourism Movement, for instance, in doing great work. So these are the local resources you have got, right? That you should really benefit from, because they've been trying and testing these kind of things and know where the failures are. So that's my only
Exactly.
encouragement.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure, Marina, you'd agree that we participating in this shows that we are committed as local people, as people who are independently committed to other things, but we understand the failures of the destination, especially for Great Zimbabwe. And we are standing up and saying, hey, we are the owners of the place. We can do
Totally.
something about it. Exactly. And we look so much forward to the people who have the knowledge, like you, like Professor Out. And as you said, we look to the people that we think are doing better, like the Victoria Falls. We look at their numbers. Do you know Victoria Falls is doing so well? Great Zimbabwe is doing a tenth of what the Vic Falls is doing. So it's a starting point, and we have other national countries like South Africa beyond, closer to our borders. But who do we have right now to hold our hand as a destination? Those are the practices that we have, and that's why we are present in these platforms to learn. And I'm happy with the approach that you use, that we may be able to make it a success. And for the past 2 years, as I've been saying, it has been a lot of introspection of what went wrong. And the only people who can do it is us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So maybe thanks for that, and thank you for all the useful information also from Marina. And just to add two small things. So one is exactly because the situation is different locally in every place. This is why we do not have a fixed set of KPIs, not a one size fits all approach. But this is what the trainings and the work locally of ROPA for Zimbabwe, for other people, other countries, is doing to customize this approach for the real situation on the ground. And obviously, so this is a global movement. And obviously, if you talk about Stockholm or Rome, or even Canada, so obviously it's completely different from what we talk about Zimbabwe. So the basic idea is the same: do something for everybody. Make everybody having objective benefits and subjective satisfaction. But of course, what does that mean for Zimbabwe, and maybe even within Zimbabwe for different places, is of course different. The second small thing to say is we are currently again asking people to take part in the Meaningful Tourism Awards, which we have been doing since 2022. So that is a way where since 3 years already, so we did it 3 times already, we are collecting positive examples from around the world, and we'll give them an award and put them into a publication so that also other people can learn, because some of the solutions might come from a totally different part of the world. Maybe somebody in the Philippines came up with a good idea. You say, oh, that is useful for us in Zimbabwe as well, in an adaptive way. So this is where we try, but clearly, and I think Marina has pointed this out very, very clearly, and Rupa has been giving examples as well of that, that it cannot be done centrally, and this is why also, for instance, we are not doing certifications. So we are not having a fixed set and saying you have to do this and have to have this and this and this, and then you're certified, because some of these requirements will not make sense in the local situation, or will be we're asking too much and then leaving out some other important part. So that is, I think, clearly where we see that this is an approach where it is so, and I'm happy with Roper saying so that the Meaningful Tourism movement can be a mentor. But this is exactly what it's about. So I don't know anything about Zimbabwe on the level obviously Marina does, and Roper, and I think probably most people who are here at the moment. So we can only say, okay, let's use this as a focal point, and also of course this is part of sustainable tourism development. We are not outside. We're not saying we are better. We are part of it, but it hopefully is a new focus point, a new point, crystallization point where people can come around and say, yeah, let's use this approach and do something. When sustainability for many people has been, oh yeah, we talk about it for so many years and nothing really happened. So I'm fed up with this. I'm tired of that. So that we have something which might give a new idea. And what I learned from Roper and from especially our other African partners is that which I didn't realize before so clearly, that it's so meaningful also has a personal level. So it has an emotional level. So it is everybody has an idea what is meaningful for me, which will be different for different people, obviously. But this is something which is not a technocratic thing. And of course, there's a lot of good things when you talk about regenerative tourism, but for most normal people, that sounds like an engineer's term. So that doesn't sound like this has something to do with me, but meaningful, obviously, everybody has some idea what is meaningful for the model. So that is what I want to add to that. And I think if I saw rightly, Fabi, Guntra, you also had raised up your hand at some point, I think. Do you have a question?
See, Charlotte has a question. Charlotte.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Charlotte, yes. Thank you for joining us again. Please go ahead.
So
Yes.
now it works. First of all, I want to start by the sentence and expression that the professor just gave before in his presentation and in his note, talking about private-public synergies. Normally, people always talk about private-public partnerships, and there, with PPPs, they forget the last P, relating to what Marina just said, and that is the people. We need 4 Ps, because if we forget the people in private-public partnerships, then they will never work. And that is one of the things that failed in many also community projects, but also in big projects. That's also so that I just wanted to comment on that to make it not too long. And then to Marina, one little comment from our side. We are specialists in carbon neutral, sustainable green buildings, also in corporate buildings, bigger projects, Deloitte, and we did the new generation of sustainable green supermarkets for the big German Rewe Group, which is also into hotels and tourism. And even in their tourism brochure in Germany, they show our supermarkets because that's the only sustainable building that they really had. Yeah, and that is crazy. I have been visiting the ITB in Berlin for many years, and I had since, I think 2006 was the first time, and I was sitting there waiting for when does the tourism industry start to act energy efficient and sustainable. It was very, very late. And we work with the diasporas and we work with the locals. But what we have been learning from that in Africa is that the challenge is that if our challenge mostly is to get them understand the value of sustainability and how they can save money, also long-term and carbon and etc., with this integrated planning and holistic approach, thinking and acting. So I believe we do not only need the locals to sustain the whole industry, also in tourism, we need a local and global cooperation with a common mindset that we want to learn from each other and add value. That is what it's about. And only there we can really move something. Thank you. And I have my husband here next to me. He is our main brain in these buildings.
I'm sure there's 2 big brains, not just one. Thank you, Charlotte. Now that's a very important point. And maybe just quickly saying, this is why also we have included at the end of the video the information from our Indian partners, Aroy, a company which is offering carbon credit trading and also helping to reduce the usage of water and reduce waste. So, but this is a very simple way to show that you can actually earn money from sustainable practices by reducing the cost for your electricity, for your water, for your waste removal, by actually getting through the carbon credit and water credit trading protocols money for what you are saving, and of course also having the local population, the employees, and the customers, the guests, realizing and seeing that this is a real approach of sustainable approach and environmental protection, not just some greenwashing, blah blah blah, or a piece of paper hanging behind the desk. So that is exactly why we are partnering with this company
and buildings.
What is that?
Buildings are one of the sectors where the most carbon is stored, and also embodied carbon as the production, the carbon for the production of, for instance, concrete and so on. So it is very important to consider this as
this is also
and what one little last comment, and that is we shall all be aware of that a smart building doesn't need to be a sustainable building in the materiality. It's about savings and technologies, but the sustainable building also has a component of what kind of sourcing and building materials we use. And there we have a huge potential also in Africa, especially in the tourism, to make sustainable solutions that are smart at the same time. But we need this holistic approach, and we need to work together. Now I take down my hand.
Okay, thank you so much. I think Marina wants to give another comment or question. Marina, please come back to us.
I was just more to be helpful in trying to see whether, I mean, Charlotte, thank you very much for that. Is an interesting example, and certainly I agree that there are issues to be addressed in the building aspect. One of the things that would be, I would say, novel, right? Because, there are a lot of organizations who do awards, certification, and you said you don't do certification. They do advisory service, they do capacity building in whichever format we want to and whichever approach you want to use. But one is actually if one of the benefit that a new approach could bring is having a database of successful implementation of projects where people can look at continental level, right? Because one of the major failing issue in the African continent, and Zimbabwe is one of the countries that has suffered from this, is that there is technology being brought from outside that work for 5 years and then they fail. One of the major issues, I mean, I came back from South Africa where you have had major stadium developed, major infrastructure developed for the World Cup. You go and visit them now, they're falling apart, right? So when I say about employing indigenous knowledge and indigenous materials, is because there is no point in putting together digitally informed things. And I'll give you an example. Millennium Challenge Corporation mega project in Namibia, which I was the assessor for. They put QR codes for maps across the entire destination, right? Guess what? The QR code didn't work anymore after 2 years because they were in a scorching sun. They were eaten by the sun. People couldn't even scan it. There was no internet connection in the middle of the bush, so people could not access the maps that had been developed. Why am I saying this? Is because if we are talking of meanings, and meanings both for the consumers and the providers, what we need to do is that those meanings are constructed locally. That's why I use the example of the water bottles produced from locally sourced waste material with the technology which was locally based purifying water, right, from Zimbabwe, because being a technological advancement born in Zimbabwe can be replicated elsewhere. So let's try and find a way to put together a database that brings all these examples together and people can benefit from those experiences. And most importantly, we can then support those Africa-based organizations in a real way, where the scalability and transferability can then be really emphasized. And international organizations like the one based in Germany, UK, wherever it is, can then not only support, but can learn. Because I'm at the face of my work where I am learning from African stories on how to live more sustainably in our environment. And last point, regulation. Is no point of talking about sustainable buildings if in a country like Zimbabwe you still have asbestos, which is still legal, right? So we have to advance the discussion and goes far beyond the tourism sector and have those dialogues, and people like Ropa and Professor, the chairman of the Zambezi, other people who can help us having those constructing conservation and say, South Africa has banned asbestos. Why do we still have asbestos in our township? Why do we have asbestos in our hotels? Hotels and lodges still use asbestos today. So again, there is a regulatory matter, which is not a criticism to Zimbabwe in itself, is a challenge that we have to face to really advance the agenda. And I'll stop there. I won't speak again. Promise.
You
Okay, thank
can't
you so
drop the
much.
mic because it's starting to be meaningful.
So I think by looking at the time, we are already a bit over time. So Ropa, obviously for you, the last words, and of course from my side again, thank you very much for all the contributions and all the people who have been listening in. Thank you, of course, especially to Marina and her engagement. And I think we all are working in the same direction, and it's good to exchange this views. And also now just now Reza Sultani became visible from Tourism Institute. So again, thank you very much to him and to his organization for making all this possible from the technology side. And I can also say some people here at the Media Convergence Center have been working in their free time to get this stuff ready and visible for everybody. So and of course again Professor Cassisi also has been giving us some very good insights. But so the last word, Ropa, is of course for you.
Oh, it's a pity that I have to say the last words, and I'm seeing in the people who've just joined, we've got Commissioner Mkobo from the Ministry of Tourism. She's joining in and she's saying greetings, everyone. And Professor Kasese hasn't spoken. And I'm sure she missed also part of what Marina said, to hear from the international perspective, like from a international tourism perspective. There is so much that was discussed here, Commissioner Mkogo. I would also want her to just say a few words, because she represents the government in this conversation, Professor Alt. And there is so much to be done. And like what Marina and what Charlotte said, and why we are here at this platform, there is a need to pay attention for Zimbabwe, and there's a need to start doing things now and according to our skill. Start small, but the action has to be done. If you can allow Commissioner Mkogo to say something, and I don't know if Professor Kasese would love to say something. Commissioner, I see you.
Hello, Ropa. Hello, everyone. My apologies. I'm coming from somewhere where I can't speak very well. I've just been to my dentist, but I'm so passionate about our industry, and Ropa really pushes me. And so I just thought I should say hello. And great conversation. I just joined a few minutes ago when we were talking about the issue of asbestos. So I thought I should just mention that my understanding is that there are various types of asbestos, and the Zimbabwean one is safe. I'll have to maybe check exactly why it's considered safe. But I hear you that legal instruments are critical. We need to also look into the enabling environment. I come from a background of tourism, but currently I'm a commissioner within the government of Zimbabwe, and I'm in the Public Service Commission. Our responsibility is really to recruit on behalf of government, to manage human resources. So we are basically doing the administration of Zimbabwe and service delivery from government to the citizens. And definitely the tourism industry is key in Zimbabwe because it's part of the pillars of the National Development Strategy from 1 to 2. And I like this kind of conversation because we are talking about the practical issues on the ground, which would really help me as a policymaker to appreciate what we need to do to make sure that we are developing our sector sustainably in terms of the way we use our natural resources. I heard about indigenous knowledge systems. I am a key fan of taking on board indigenous knowledge systems, indigenous knowledge, because that's how we can be sustainable. We are not reinventing the wheel. We should take into account how our let me use ancestors used to live. There are certain things which they did for sustainability, which sometimes in Africa we tend to throw them away and import new ideas which are not practical for our situation. So, Marina, thank you so much for the little I picked from your presentation. And I just want to say, I hope I'll be able to have more time to follow through and participate in this meaningful tourism platform. Thank you, Ropa, for inviting me. And thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Professor Alt, I don't know, you can say something. I don't know if Prof. Kasese wants to say as well. Go ahead, Professor Alt.
Yeah. So Commissioner Mukhogo, thank you very much for joining us. Just to say, if you were not able to see the whole thing, the Tourism Institute will put the whole video on the website. So in 1 or 2 days, you will be able, if you find the time, to look at the whole presentation we had today. And of course, I'm very grateful that it even coming from the dentist, so you're still joining us. That is obviously showing your strong engagement and your enthusiasm for making Zimbabwe tourism more successful and more visible for us. So, Reza, can you tell us approximately when will the video be available? Any idea? Unmute yourself.
From tomorrow.
Very good. So that's very good service. So Commissioner and everybody who wants to see us again, and I know that in the past we had actually more people looking at it afterwards than people joining. Also, sometimes there's internet connection problems for African destinations. So that's why we are very happy that the Tourism Institute is helping us in that way as well. But now I think really we have to come to an end. And
Professor Kasese? Professor Kasese?
Professor Kasese, okay, of course.
Yes.
You are entitled to say something as well. Professor, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm glad I've been part of this August House where we are learning. I mean, learning does not end. And as questions were coming in, we would see certain areas where we think we are going to be improving. But what you need to know is when you talk of civilization, it's not an instant thing. It's not one event. You progress as time goes on, as new information comes in, as new innovations, new discoveries come in, new scientific researches come in. For us to survive, we need to adapt and move forward with new trends which are on the world scene. And the issue of the asbestos right now in Zimbabwe, the asbestos which we are using is called serpentine asbestos, which is fairly safe. But all asbestos are not safe. I mean, if you get exposed to it in a long run. But what's going to happen is you need to know the background where you're coming from. You can't just overnight, abandon certain things. We do them gradually, and there are regulations which are on fold now, which pertains to the use of asbestos in Zimbabwe. Technology, coming up with our own innovations and ways of doing things. I can assure you that it's at the forefront here in Zimbabwe. There's a lot of research which is happening. We are coming up with own models, which suits our own local communities. And as time goes on, as we get exposed and start to publicize through our universities, Great Zimbabwe University is taking a lead in such kind of innovations, and the University of Zimbabwe is also doing the same. So I think in certain instances, that's lack of information which we are not publicizing. But as we go along, we'll be having journals publicized on innovations and scientific strides which are making in Zimbabwe. Well, we need you guys. I mean, I'm very glad that when you become a part of such a community of innovators, people who want to move forward, who wants to create a safe environment, you also become part of such a global group. But thank you so much for exposing us, and we hope that this synergy which you just formed today will continue in the future, and there's a lot to learn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. And I would want to mention that the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority was also present in this conversation, Professor Alt. So every conversation, I'm happy that we can have the part 2 for Zimbabwe and then have everyone involved. Thank you,
Very
Tsitsi, for
good.
being present.
Very good. So let's keep this conversation running, and let's see that we can turn this into action, because meaningful tourism is not about talking, it's about doing something. Well, we have a lot of problems to solve and a lot of opportunities to take up, and so that is clearly, I think everybody in this community, which we will sooner or later start to call a movement, I think. So everybody is there because we want to change something and to do something for the better. And it's not just some academic exercise. It is meant to change the world a little bit, step by step, for the better.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so I think
Thank you, Ropa.
Thank you.
Okay, so with this, as you know, I'm based in Nepal.
Thank you.
So we are saying namaste in Nepal. So thank you so much, everybody, and speak again soon.
Thank you. And those who are based in Nepal, greetings to my in-laws. My son is married to a Nepali girl. So I've been to Kathmandu.
Okay.
Oh,
Welcome again.
nice.
Welcome again. Please
Yes,
come
I've
again.
been. Namaste, namaste.
Okay.
Namaste, Professor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
I see your partner. I want to say my partner was also here in the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.